You're listening to 702 Gaming Podcast, episode number 5. I'm Jacob. I have Jason and Joss with me. Jason, you were out of town. You're back. Welcome
Yes.
back, friend.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, chums. Made it back safely. Good times.
We wanted to say thank you to everyone that's listened so far on YouTube or Apple or Spotify or Google or wherever they've been listening. We've been seeing it and seeing comments, and we want to say we appreciate it. Helps us out, keeps us going, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And you girls.
Yes. The first question I want to go over is courtesy of Ruben in Italy. Our friend out in Italy wanted us to talk about movies to games and games to movies. And I thought this was a great subject to go over because we all love movies and we all love games, but sometimes it doesn't quite work out when they try and jump, from a game to a movie or a movie to a game.
Right.
Yeah, sometimes he says.
Right.
Yeah, sometimes. And I definitely feel like a movie to a game comes out better than a game to a movie more often than not. But I just wanted to go over a few movies that I do like that are based on games and games that I do like that are based on movies. And then I'll jump over and see what you guys think. Thinking back, I really liked the Jurassic Park games. I still have my Sega magazine when the original Jurassic Park game was coming out on the Sega. I liked that one. You played as Dr. Grant and a Velociraptor, and you kind of, right? You jump back and forth between levels between each.
That was
Loved
amazing.
it. And the graphics at that time were just like mind-blowing to me. Yeah. 2D platformer type game, but sort of played like Flashback where you had to time your jumps right and everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember his Flashback.
Yeah, that was a good game.
Great game.
One of the games I spent a ton of time on PC in, I don't know, the 90s, Alien vs. Predator.
Okay.
Oh, that was a great game.
Yes.
You could play as the Marine, the Alien, or the Predator. My favorite was playing as the Alien, but I did love playing as a Predator and shooting that harpoon into someone and nailing them up against the wall.
Their head off, right? Just the head stuck on the wall.
Oh, yes.
Good.
It was
times,
great.
Man. That Alien, not so much. No, not so much.
But you could get sick playing that Alien, too.
That's why, yeah.
It was like a fishbowl view, right?
Yeah.
Or fisheye lens.
It bent around your head like this. Like I felt like playing it enough, my eyes were slowly migrating to the sides of my head.
That's funny.
You were evolving.
Bar. It was bad, man. It was bad.
General Akbar.
It was like
it's a trap. But I liked playing as the Alien because my favorite movie is Alien, but besides that,
there's a lot of Alien games, right? So that's
there's a lot. And there's a lot of good ones.
Yeah.
There's some bad ones, but there's a lot of good ones.
Right? Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And then one that I liked the movie, but I loved the game at the time, especially, was Riddick.
I don't think
the movie was kind of controversial. I know it's not really supposed to be the greatest of a movie. I just enjoyed it for what it was. But that game, have you guys played that game?
No,
that's
I never played
Butcher
Bay, yes.
Yeah. So the game actually is good. I'll give you that. The movie is like, man.
That's fine.
That was a I needed a paycheck type movie.
I guess. Yeah, it's not really a movie that you watch 3 times.
You
watch it once and you're done.
I've seen Riddick way more than 3 times.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I don't know. I had problems. Ooh. I don't know. Maybe I was going through something. I don't know.
Yeah, man. I hope that's why. If you were going through something, then I apologize.
Okay.
This was for pure enjoyment. I got questions.
Wow.
But Riddick was great. The way they did the first-person melee combat was totally new. It was first of its kind, I think.
Really?
In that aspect, yeah.
I feel like, it
might have to look
definitely
at that later.
You'd have to fist fight other cell inmates and stuff.
What console or time period are we talking about?
It was either
Xbox.
Yeah, I think it was original Xbox.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
And it was I want to say it was like later in the generation of the first Xbox to where the graphics were pretty impressive for what console it was on at the
Okay.
time or something like that. But
Nice.
that was good.
That was really good,
Examples for
actually.
me back on movies going to gaming. It was a lot harder to choose some movies based on games that were good because the selection is so slim on what is actually decent that way. And I have an idea of why that is, and I'll get to that in a second. But the movies I did actually enjoy are all pretty recent. You guys might know more movies than I couldn't think of, but Detective Pikachu, the Pokemon movie,
Okay.
is actually a good movie.
Right.
I did not expect you to say that
I
at
didn't
all.
either.
That's
When I
not.
rented that movie, I
Uh,
didn't think I'm not a Pokemon fan, and I just rented it for the kids, and we all watched it together, and I really enjoyed it. It was a great movie. I
nice.
don't think it did like any kind of disservice to Pokemon fans or anything. Maybe I'm wrong. If I am,
They're coming
uh,
We're
after you.
coming for you, man.
write it in the
Coming
comments.
for you, man. Hey,
But
just
I
everyone
like that
remember
one.
who said that.
Yeah. Um, the other one is also a family movie, but I really enjoyed this movie, Sonic, the new one with Jim Carrey.
Yeah. It's kind of been a trend. You're seeing the
Yeah,
trend
Right?
with the.
that wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
It
I
was, it
haven't
was
seen that one. Yeah. It's on the thing. I'm so
I
bad
mean,
about
Sonic
these.
doesn't have such a deep lore that they could mess it up too bad. There was some cartoon series and everything, but you can't really mess up Sonic anyways.
Yeah.
Um, I thought it turned out really good. It was really entertaining and the kids liked it, had really good effects, genuinely made me laugh throughout it. So I like that one. And then the new Mortal Kombat movie, while it was definitely like a B movie,
Yeah.
I would say, right?
Yeah.
Would you
yeah,
guys say it was a B movie?
felt like a D movie,
Yeah.
but
I
It's.
enjoyed it. I
I
yeah,
think it
enjoyed it
was like
though.
intentionally production was supposed to be a
Yeah,
little lower and all that, and the feel, the way it was, shot and captured.
I thought they did well with it.
I think they
Um,
did well for what they could do, right? Budgetary restraints
mhm.
are what they are. I might misquote this a bit, but I remember the director once that first trailer dropped, and everyone's like, "Oh, that's Goro," and I hate that. Right. First off, I hate that. I don't want to go off on a tangent here, but I hate
You can.
when I hear people say things like that. Like when the Avengers came out, and it's like, "Oh, Hulk looks fake." Yeah, he's supposed to look fake because he's not real, right? Like so
It's
when
very true.
right, so Goro looks fake. Cool.
Yeah.
Like there's no point of reference for that. The original
Right.
Goro was a clay figurine, and they did
Right.
stop
Totally.
motion with it. So,
You're totally
um,
right.
but
Yeah.
the director
I thought he
though,
looked great
I thought it looked good for what it
for
was.
what it
The
was. Yeah.
the director said that every second you saw Goro on screen cost what his house cost.
Oh,
So when you hear things like that,
and he probably
then
doesn't
it's
live in
like
my neighborhood.
that's I feel like he's not my neighbor,
Yeah, I think
right?
there's a little
Yeah.
gap there in income.
Yes, yes. So
His house
when
is
you
probably pretty good.
would assume maybe all of
Yeah.
ours combined. So just
Right.
that perspective shot, right? Of
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
okay, but yeah,
Well,
it
so
wasn't bad.
I thought the effects were decent for their budget, and I
Mhm.
thought Reptile looked good animated, like the quality wise. I just didn't appreciate what they did with Reptile specifically
Yeah,
because
I didn't like
don't
that.
make him just into a big old lizard.
He was
Reptile's
just a
actually
lizard.
he's like a ninja guy, like,
Yeah, he's just a lizard. Like
it's
I
like
hate it was a raptor. I was like, what is
yeah,
that?
it was just crawling on the ceiling and stuff. That wasn't what Reptile was in the games.
No.
But okay, that type of game doesn't have a whole lot of lore. Fighting games can't go too deep. Do you know, Jason, is there like books or anything on side lore on Mortal Kombat?
So yeah, I'm a major Mortal Kombat fan, from the first to the last.
Have
I
you ever
think
been in the tournament? Like
um,
live your
I've
body?
done a lot of live Mortal
Oh,
Kombat tournaments. I've murdered a lot of people.
cool.
Oh my
Yeah.
Yeah.
god.
Well, it's cool to say that, right? I mean, we're
Oh
talking
my
Yeah.
about
gosh.
online, bro. What are you
On
talking about?
an arcade unit or like in the parking
Yes.
lot?
Arcade, whatever gets me not arrested, I've
Okay.
done that.
It's too
Um,
much.
Gotcha.
so yeah, there's a lot of rich lore, I would say,
Okay.
with Mortal Kombat versus something like Street Fighter, right? Like you think of let's just I don't know, let's pick Sub-Zero.
Hmm.
Um, as kind of the face of Mortal Kombat, and then say you pick Ryu or Ryu as the face of Street Fighter. When you look at those two backstories, you're like, oh, so you're just kind of like wandering the earth looking for fights, Ryu? Cool. Right? And then you look at Sub-Zero's story, you're like, oh, there's a whole, like, there's clan wars that have been going on for centuries, right? And the Sub-Zero that you've been seeing is actually the brother of the original sub. Like, there is so much more lore that goes into it. So when I watch movies like Mortal Kombat, I'm almost kind of going in with an unfair advantage, so I'm grading it accordingly.
So
Same
do
thing.
you feel like this newest Mortal Kombat movie did an injustice to like Sub-Zero and Scorpion? Because I know they must have changed the story completely
Yeah, was
then
the lore
on that.
better
So,
in the newer one
Yeah.
than the
so
original? I mean,
was it
did you
better than
or
the original?
well, did you feel like
Yeah.
the lore was deeper in this newer
Yes,
one? Even okay, so even though it was a
100%.
lower budgeted movie, like the
Mm,
storyline and the lore was a little deeper and have
yeah,
more depth for
I would say
character
what they did
development.
with Sub-Zero and Scorpion is the best aspects of
Yeah,
this new film.
that's cool.
The the cage fighting dude with the weird gold chest plate
That's
thing,
what I wanted to ask you was, do you feel like that character was just a throw in for
that should
fans
have
that didn't
edited
know,
that right out.
or yeah, viewers that weren't fans, I guess?
Yeah, I'm not sure honestly what that was about. His name is Cole, I think, something like
And
that.
he's supposed to be what, Scorpion's grandson or child or
He'd
something.
have to be like a great great great,
Okay, that's right.
right? But
You're right.
I mean, that was just pure ridiculousness.
Okay.
Hated it. Like, I think if they had actually taken one of the characters that we all know and love and said the movie's about you, there would have
Yeah.
been no problem. And there's so many characters to do that,
Mm-hmm.
right? You easily could have followed Liu Kang and his relationship with Kung Lao, and especially with the death of Kung Lao when that happens, like how that affects Luke. Like, those are the storylines. Instead, we got some weird dude who just gets beat up, through the beginning of the film and then through the middle of the film and somehow beats Goro. That was weird to me.
Well,
It was
Yeah.
to me, you're
weird.
right. If I had one knock on that movie, it would definitely be that character was a missed opportunity, because if you're going to write in a new character for a movie based
Mhm,
on a video game,
mhm.
you could have made that character so cool and so interesting for the player that
Yes,
they could have then added him into the Mortal Kombat universe, into the games, and then you'd want to play them because you saw them first in the movie.
easily
Um,
could. Yes.
so Josh, have you seen this movie?
That I've started it. I've never like I didn't finish it.
So the story
So
kind of goes that the way they get their powers, like shooting fire out their hands and stuff, they kind of earn it. And yeah, as long as you have that Mortal Kombat symbol on you.
yeah, okay.
And this character, when he finally gets his powers, like Jason said, he just kind of puts on like a bronze suit, and he has these two little nightsticks, and he
Yeah.
kills Goro with them. And it's like,
Yeah.
huh, I
And
thought something awesome was
it's
going to come
it's
out. And
Goro. Like, for
Yeah.
people, the fans who know the Dragon Prince that Goro is, you're like, I mean, he really should have just kind of pulled dude's arms right
Right.
off, right? Like, that's what should have happened.
That's what
And he
Goro
should have
does.
done it in front of his kid, right? Everyone should be like, oh my God, what's
Okay.
even going on right now, right? And that's what should have happened. But unfortunately, it didn't. And just kind of
did
to
not.
touch on what you were saying, Jake, they could have written in a character if they were going to go that route, which I didn't think they needed to. They could have written in a character that was so interesting, so rich in its own lore, that fans would have loved it, and then they could have added it, as a downloadable character later,
Mhm.
right? Um, and if I look to the absolutely horrendous Street Fighter movie with Van Damme, there's a character in that movie that was never in the game. His name, I think, is Sakura. And once the Street Fighter, the movie, the game, which is
Yes,
what it's actually
there it
called,
is. I
right?
hope he was getting there. That's on. Yep.
Yes. When that came out, that Sakura character is in the game.
I
I
did
mean, he
not know
sucked.
that. Yeah,
Yeah, he,
that's
he
dope
sucked in
though.
the
I know the
game. He
game, but I
sucked.
didn't know that.
Yeah, it's bad, man.
It was a
That was
really
when
bad.
everyone was
It was a
like,
really bad game for fighting games.
so bad.
So
He
So
wasn't
yeah.
even good in the game.
Well, and I see
no.
that, and we're kind of just talking about fighting games right now. I think
Mm,
scratching the surface.
yeah.
Right,
But
the games I've mentioned don't really have a whole lot of lore to them.
right.
No.
So let me tell you why I think movies to games work and not games to movies as much is I believe it's the lore aspect of it where a game tries to build upon the story or a side story. So look at all the Star Wars games. They usually focus on like a side character, a side story, where a movie feels like it has to rewrite everyone's introduction into that universe.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. And that's hard. That's really hard to, I mean,
Yeah.
look at the Marvel films. The reason those films are so long
Mm.
is and honestly, if they were to do the characters really, the justice they deserve, they'd have to be longer,
Right.
right? Like these characters they've got, you know, so many years of stories that make them who they are,
That's
right?
why the
Like
TV shows are
eventually,
amazing. It
right,
allows us more time, but that's off
right.
on another subject because I know these are movies. But keep going.
But it's like when they have eventually introduced, my favorite Marvel character of all time. Once they introduce Wolverine back into the films, um, how's that gonna go? They're gonna throw him on film, and people are gonna be like, "Yeah, we've been waiting to see him. Cool." Um, but are they gonna be able to do like the Weapon X storylines? Are they gonna be able to like? I mean, I'm a
Mm.
big comic book guy too.
Mm.
Are they gonna be able to do that? No, they can't. Could they have done that with Mortal Kombat with the amount of story and backstory these characters have? Not necessarily, but they could have easily focused on a character. Right? The movie would have turned out so much better, I think, if they did that. And because they didn't do that, it showcases characters that fans like and that didn't get their like just due. And then the characters that did, and you're like, I wanted to see more of him. Kano in this film, hands down, the best part of the movie.
Yeah.
Nice.
Funny,
Hands down, right?
funny, made me laugh, was
Yes,
cool. Like,
you wanted
yeah,
more of him.
yeah.
Like it would have been great if they could have had the other characters be interesting. They were
He was
so
very
flat.
interesting.
Yes, so flat the other characters were. I hated that.
Yeah. I did like Kung Lao and Liu Kang.
I like their characters because I like their characters, right? But
That's probably why I did too. Yeah.
yeah, I do. I don't. I would love to know how many words they spoke total for the entire film,
Hmm.
right? It's not like Terminator 2 Arnold, where he only spoke like 12 words and got like 20 million. It's not like that, but it's low though. It's
Same
just
word
Well, like
over
you
and
said,
over.
what if Reptile or Goro are your favorite characters in the game? They were in it for about what, 4 minutes each?
Hmm.
yeah, and that's being generous
So
Wow.
yeah.
with Reptile. So yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly though, this is an interesting one. I mean, we could do the obvious, Mario Brother movie where I don't know what the Koopas were, but they frightened me as a kid. I think they frightened everyone.
The
Like
little
what?
head.
Yeah, like
Big
they
old
looked
body.
like Reptile in Mortal Kombat the game,
Oh my
right?
god.
So
Love that movie though because it's so weird and
it's
so
so
like
weird.
someone had to have been on drugs, man.
Yeah, you think?
They were on real mushrooms.
Right? Yeah, the actual Mushroom Kingdom.
Yeah, they weren't getting one
Uh,
ups. No.
Casting in
no,
that movie worked out well because it was just kind of like
yeah,
slapstick comedy, and it went
Yeah.
yeah,
along with the way it was directed. It came together really nice for what it was, right?
for what
Like
it was.
they were
Yes.
like,
was so
I see
jacked up.
Mario through this lens. Like,
Yeah,
okay,
the lens. It's
yeah,
the lens that they saw the
yeah,
characters
yeah.
through.
Yeah.
Made me. That was the first time I realized, as a kid, especially growing up, then getting into video, being such a movie guy, that directors don't necessarily do their homework ever,
Yeah. Yep.
right? Actors don't necessarily do their homework. When you watch Mark Wahlberg in Max Payne, like
It brings
what?
me pain.
Yeah, I'm like, what?
Mm.
So what?
Maximum
What
pain.
Mm.
game did you play that made you think this is like what was that?
Yeah.
What was
I have
that?
no idea.
Yeah. So that's a prime example of that. I mean, there's Double Dragon, the movie. Wow, that's a treat. That one is.
That's a game to a movie now,
It
right?
is. It's a
Yeah.
game. It's a game
So
to a
I just want
movie.
to like make sure the listeners, the viewers are on the
Yes.
same page when we're
Yes.
talking about movies, games, or games to movies.
That's a game to a movie, and it's
Yeah.
one that's near and dear to my heart. Love
Yeah.
Double Dragon.
The movie though.
But I think Eric Stoltz is in there. The guy who was in Mask.
Kids.
Is the redhead guy in Anaconda.
Kids, if you
Like,
can, they wouldn't know any side scroller anyway. I mean, what like that's an age.
Hey,
It's age appropriate
I'm a
right
retro
now.
guy, right?
I know. I know. It's a side scroller game.
So bad. So bad.
So Jason, tell us what movies that came out of games that you do like. Do you have any?
I have one specific.
Okay.
Okay. This is the one. And anyone that has seen it, and there's a few of them, but the first one specifically, it's just a very good movie. Right? I think it was misunderstood. Just because video game movies, they have such a black eye on them right out the gate. All right. So it's kind of like you know what to expect from Resident Evil movies. It's not really a movie. It's just like throw a bunch of crazy stuff at the screen and there you go. Right. It's not about the zombies. It's not about a town. You know, you're trying to. It's none of the cool things of the game. Right. So my number one, hands down, has got to be Silent Hill.
Oh.
That is a great movie.
I actually really like that movie.
That's a great movie, man. And you could watch that and have no idea that it came from a game and really enjoy it.
Right.
That's true. It's just a good movie. It doesn't have to
There
be
you go.
based on that game.
That's probably your
Yes.
good example of the really good story, just being
Yes.
able to translate in the right hands. And like,
Yep.
yeah, that's horror game,
100%.
right? Silent Hill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the movie is too horror.
Right.
I mean, Pyramid Head walks up to that girl and just, oof.
When he like grabs her by the chest and tears all of her skin right
Yeah.
off, right? Just
Hey,
kind of.
he tore.
It's not. Is it shot for shot, or is it just a really good translation?
It's a good translation. I mean, Silent Hill is a haunted town. And in the movie, I'm not exactly sure if this is lore for lore, but in the movie, there was a little girl who either was possessed or thought that she was possessed, and townsfolk end up killing her. That's what townsfolk do, which is why you don't want to live in a town. 'Cause
Yeah.
whenever there's
Yeah.
townsfolk, someone always gets burnt alive.
No street lights or
No,
out in
no,
the
no,
middle
no.
of
You have
nowhere.
to light
They're
them.
I
There's a
know.
candle in there, right? Any townsfolk, you don't want to be around that. But
Hey, they're
Candle?
bored, dude.
yeah, they're bored. I don't do that when I'm bored.
candle.
I've never been that bored though.
Oh my
Right?
God.
But yeah, they burnt this little girl alive, and she ends up kind of cursing the town. When you watch the movie, you're almost like, is this two different worlds?
Hmm.
Like kind of like a bizarro world version of the real world. Like the people that are living in Silent Hill are living in your world, but you don't see them, type of thing, right? It's pretty weird. But again, just the way it was shot, the
Yep.
like even the color tones, everything about that movie, it makes it a great movie. And that was the thing, right? Sometimes you can try to shoehorn in too many things for fan service. Like I think all of the Resident Evil movies is a great example of that, where you're just, hey, the dogs, you got to have the bloody zombie Dobermans, right?
Right.
Make sure you have those in every film, right? Like I don't necessarily need that. This one, it just didn't do that. And when you finally got to see like the nurses with no faces, right? And when you finally got to see Pyramid Head, like you knew when you saw that giant thing, like, being drugged behind someone, you're like, that's Pyramid Head. I cannot wait to see what it looks like, So
Yeah.
that to me, easily number one. Easily
Nice.
number one.
That's a good choice.
Yeah.
Good choice.
Josh, where are you at with it?
There's so many, like to pick a number one. I don't know, and it depends on like the translation which we're talking about. But like movies then became video games. I think a lot of Disney games did that well. Kingdom Hearts, that game, that series is really well done. There's a lot of nostalgia as you play through. You play storylines, and it gives it that deeper lore kind of thing as you build this other character and the magical land. Shout out to GoldenEye 007, right?
Oh, that's a good one.
We got to drop that. That's honorable mention. Honorable mention.
That's a great one.
I can't get with y'all on that.
No,
not on the 64.
I would throw up in my lap if I tried to play that game.
Makes sense.
So motion sick.
You said that before on the first
person.
Trust
us when we say that was a great game.
Okay.
It's no good for me.
And then it was a movie first, and then they made it as a game. But the game came out. I wish I should have looked up the date. I want to know it now. But when the game came out, Rockstar made this game.
Okay.
Rockstar. The Warriors.
Oh, wow.
Hey, great game, man.
So it is a really good, like, open kind of world doing the story. And there's like little spin-offs, and it kind of even gives you like a backstory of the formation of the gang, before, like, at the beginning of the movie, they're just like, they go to the big meeting, Cyrus is talking, he gets assassinated, and then they're on the run. But the game kind of builds a lot of backstory of the gangs, and then your rivalries with the other gangs, and the way you kind of like mob around in the streets and punch and kick people, and
so
like literally, and like you get bats so much, and
like,
stuff,
beating people.
Yes, you're just fighting, you're just brawling.
I loved it.
Yes. So it came out in 2005 on PlayStation 2 and Xbox.
That checks out.
It got good reviews too.
Yeah, dude, it's a really good game.
I remember the movie. I do not remember the game.
I
did not know Rockstar made that.
Both of you remember the movie.
Yeah.
Can you dig it? Right? Like Cyrus, I thought was the baddest man walking in the first like 3 minutes of him being introduced, and then he's dead. And I'm like, okay, well,
he was like Goro.
Exactly, right. It was like they introduced something that I thought was really going to be what it was about, and the way the movie unfolded that's definitely one of the better films, I think, out of that era. And you're right, the game. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
really
kind of have nightmares of the dude at the end of the movie. Warriors,
come out and play.
Just the tone that it comes through, that screech. I was like,
yeah.
If it was dark, that would be a lot more frightening.
No, the facial structure, everything, right? Yeah, that guy. I've seen him in a few other films. I'm a big horror movie guy, so he's in Dreamscape, and everything about him, you're like, yeah, that guy. That's the guy who killed Cyrus.
Yeah,
that's the guy that killed Cyrus. But yeah.
Yeah, and he was in some Arnold movie too or something, and Arnold held him over the ledge and like dropped him.
It was Commando.
Yeah, it was Commando. He's like, you were gonna kill me. You were gonna kill me. He was like, I lied.
You were gonna kill me last. I lied.
Remember, Sally, when I promised to kill you last?
That's right, Major. You did.
I lied.
Same guy, yeah.
Yeah, nice. Same guy. It's good to see him get killed. That guy is a piece of crap.
Probably the nicest guy in the world.
Yeah, probably super nice, right?
All the villains are, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, Josh, is there any movies that you enjoyed that based on games, or it's harder to pick?
There's one. That's all I'm gonna say.
I mean, not really that you said. I wanted to bring up the Street Fighter was just kind of unique when I was looking things up. It was more unique to know that it was the game, and then it had a movie, and then it had a game about the movie. Like it came full circle. It wasn't mechanically and all that.
Right? Is that where Inception came from?
I felt like they copied it too many times, right? If a copy of a copy of a copy, it starts to fall off. It was like,
multiplicity.
Yeah. All right, we were good there, and then they came back around and made games normal again, and not about the movie or any of that.
Right.
I mean, I like that one. That's the movie for me. There holds a lot of nostalgia. And then the Resident Evil, I was just too scared to play that game when it first came out. So then the movies, I was like, oh, okay. No. Hey, that's what, PlayStation 1, right?
PlayStation 1, yeah.
That, so. No, man, we're
That
trying to play Resident Evil with the lights off. See who's gonna run out the room
only way
first
to
and
play
turn
it.
who's gonna turn the light on first. Yeah.
I didn't do that, but I actually was I was modding PlayStations at the time, right? And I got a copy of a game called Biohazard from a friend of mine. And he's like, "Man, this is the best game ever." Da, 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 da. I'm like, "Yeah, sounds awesome. Sounds like toxic waste, right?" Had no idea. And it was Resident Evil because that's what it's called in Japan.
Yep.
I didn't know what was going on because it was all in Japanese, but I could tell that this was a bad place to be and that there were zombies and there's stuff crashing through the windows, and I just couldn't wait to get a copy in English. Once I got that, it was like that's a me game, like all wrapped into one. All the horror elements that I'm into. I actually just beat the first one finally. The end of last year. Yeah, it was on my list. It was on my bucket list. So
Cool.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that was probably the first horror game I ever played too. I don't know if there was really many horror games before that. And if there were, they probably weren't as scary or able to scare you.
The first horror game I'm pretty sure excuse me, ever. I think it was Texas Chainsaw on Atari. And it's what it is, graphics and everything. There's no music, but there is the constant what is supposed to be a chainsaw sound, right? Which just sounds like a buzzer, just like, you're supposed to run around and chainsaw. You actually play as the killer, so you're Leatherface in the game. I always thought that was really cool.
That's cool.
Yeah, I think there's actually I own one of the Halloween Atari games, so I'm pretty sure the Texas Chainsaw was first though, because it's not Resident Evil.
Right.
Maybe in the 80s it was. I don't know.
Nice.
The square guy carrying the square chainsaw to chop up the square person.
Did either of you guys play The Thing?
Yeah.
No.
PlayStation 2. Underrated, 100%.
Yep.
That was one of the absolute best movie to game adaptations.
I think
right there.
I think I played that with my brother quite a bit actually. Like when he first maybe came to Vegas. I'd have to look at the timing on that. But so it sounds about maybe we just got it later, but yeah, definitely.
That was good, man.
Yeah.
That was good. Like it really kept you guessing as to who's infected. Right? You had no idea. I mean, I never thought I was infected. I think both of you are infected right now.
Okay.
But sorry, it's just how my mind thinks. Yeah, that was easily one of the best adaptations. That was probably one of the only third-person games that made me nauseous, though. There was something about the way it moved. Maybe it was too
I'll have
quick.
to look up that one.
It may have been
cool. I love the movie.
You know how we're double analog now, and early on, it kind of did some games like would auto do it for you. So
I think that's what it was.
So you would kind of so that the camera, and you try to swing around, and so you're constantly fighting the camera. So you just turn left, and then the camera comes around or whatever.
You doing that right now is making me nauseous. I'm officially nauseated. But yeah, that's a really good one. PlayStation 2, I believe. I'm pretty sure it's PlayStation 2.
Yeah.
So did you guys see the new Metroid Dread trailer?
Yes.
Are you guys Metroid fans?
I mean, played it, yes. Fans of it. I know its roots. I mean, I played on the Game Boy, right? So not
played on the Game Boy.
Yeah.
Weird. Most people say the Nintendo.
No.
Right out the gate.
I don't know what. It's just what I had. Again, I had what I had, and I don't remember playing it on the console, but then once I got a Game Boy and I started having, I don't know, I had a lot of Game Boy games. I played the hell out of that thing.
I played the hell out of the Game Boy as well. I didn't have too many games with it, but man, you could not beat me in Tetris.
Right.
Best thing about the Game Boys when they started releasing games where you're like, why is Street Fighter on this?
Oh.
There's clearly not enough buttons. Right?
Two buttons.
Why is that on this? But yeah, I thought the trailer looked pretty good. I am a Metroid fan, I believe, by proxy of nostalgia, more than the actual fun while playing it, because that was one of those games where I sat down on the floor drawing maps because I didn't know where I was going ever. All right. And you finally get like the screw attack and you think, oh my God, this game is just opening up and I'm still lost. Like, okay, we're this one map that I drew and I put it up here because I thought I went up this level, right? So I placed the piece of paper up there and then I'm standing up looking at, this ancient scroll of maps like that I have strewn across the living room. And hey, it's bedtime. Uh-oh. What do I do with my maps? That's what I remember of that game more than anything else. And the fact that it was absolutely awesome and, of course, groundbreaking. I think that Samus is a female.
Yeah. You felt like you played the whole game through just to get that shocker at the end when
even though
Samus takes her helmet off. You're like,
even though
what?
By that time we all knew that it was a lady under the helmet, but you wanted to do it yourself. There's something about it, right?
Yeah.
And when you do it yourself, even though you're still shocked somehow. I don't know how that works, but
I love that they had done that.
Yeah.
So I guess this is the first 2D Metroid in 19 years.
That makes
I was gonna
that
say
checks
like 18,
out.
18 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Metroid fans, they get the raw end of the steak.
I don't know.
They really
side
do.
scrollers, unfortunately, we're beyond that now. We demand
Don't
the
do that.
bar is. I'm sorry, retro guy, but the
No,
bar
man.
is set a lot higher these days with the
I don't think so.
playability and other things. Oh no, there's still but you pick up Metroid and you play the side scroller for 10 minutes and be done. But there's still a huge market for it. I'm not going to say there's not. And it's a lot of people enjoy it. I'm not into it because there's way more stuff out there than that was all that was on my Game Boy. I mean, I had that and five other,
Right.
things at the time. Yeah.
Well, I did think they did a cool thing on the trailer with the sort of boss that's chasing you around on the
I thought that looked
2D platforming. That's a cool twist to that,
Way
right?
different. Way different.
Yep.
It looked, just watching the trailer kind of stressed me out. I could tell that that's like an intense moment where that thing's just about to get you and you're side scrolling away from it.
It almost
Really
changes
cool.
that game completely. Being
Yeah.
able to do
Yeah,
that.
I think it definitely changes the game. I mean, the game has always been action oriented, but it's so much like exploration, right? Like I know I've said before, and this is not necessarily the same thing, but certain older games really just punished you.
Oh,
And
unforgiving.
I feel like,
yeah.
yes, I feel Metroid is one of those games. I know there's a lot of people that are, nah, man, I could beat that game. But that. Okay, the game came out. When it came out, you were 7. So you weren't just running through games because, now you have save states. So being realistic, certain games just punished you over and over and over. And the first time I played Metroid, I rented it. Right? So it was like schoolwork's done, everything's good, house is cleaned. I bathed, right? More than once. So it's like, yeah, we're gonna go down to it's like a grocery store, and they just happen to have a kiosk where you can rent. And I always saw, Metroid, just the box, and you're like, ooh, box art, right? So I bet the game looks like that. It didn't, but finally rented it, got it home, and was like, I'm just stuck for the entire weekend. The entire weekend, you're just like, I don't know, what am I even doing? Same thing with Zelda. I rented Zelda and was stuck for a weekend. It was like, cool. Like my friends say, the gold card is awesome. I don't know. I can't go anywhere. I can't do anything. So I'm sure it's still going to have that type of, not learning curve, but that's a part of what Metroid is. So I'm sure that's going to be in it. It definitely looks a little more action oriented, at least from the trailer.
Yeah.
I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And I also, I kind of mad at you for saying what you said about 2D games, bro. Just because, to say games have more to offer, do they? How many open world games do we need? Right? How many?
Just Red Dead and Grand Theft. That's it.
Rockstar can't make them all.
Their start.
There's got to be.
They don't have to. Just keep updating.
There's got to be
right?
competing.
Man, once
No,
Rockstar takes the World
I'll
of Warcraft like approach and just keeps updating their games, like
yeah,
we don't keep like seriously, how many open world games do you need? How many games have we played where you're like this needed to be way more linear? So
A lot,
really, like you know what I'm saying? So
a
many of
lot.
them where you're like, there's just dead space here.
Yeah.
What am I even doing? You know? So
I love
when
linear. I think linear games are the best games.
I like to have a point
Yeah.
to why I'm playing this
Yeah.
at all. So I mean, I agree games have progressed, so I'm not saying that they haven't.
right.
But
No, and
there's
Metroid
something to
definitely
be
upped
said
their
though.
game with this one. I mean,
I think
they're
so.
bringing in new game mechanics in 2D and kind of like it's definitely freshened up. And
Yeah.
I think the biggest draw for this are the people that do chase that unforgiving kind of gameplay style. Like
Yeah.
this will draw a higher they'll make some money off of it. I mean,
Oh
and
yeah.
and then side scroller, like I would venture to say, I'm not a code writer and don't quote me and all that, but that game's probably easier to upkeep as well. It's not as like Warzone's a mess. Like they
And I
can't,
think
a
I
lot of
think the
BRs are
2D stuff
messes and
is it works better on the handhelds. Like you said that you played a lot of those games on a
right.
handheld, and the Switch
Mhm.
is halfway a handheld.
Yeah.
So I think it comes out good, right?
I think it lands right where
I
it
think
needs
so.
to. I mean, it
Yeah.
just
So
I think
it
it's
it
right where it needs
fits.
to be.
speaking of the Switch, they're coming out with a new Switch that has an OLED screen that's just slightly bigger, and it's an OLED for
Yeah.
$50 more. Do you what y'all think?
I
Josh, you want to take that first? Because I know how I feel about it.
I mean, I was expecting way more from whatever they were holding back and about to release. Everybody wanted it to be the Switch Pro, or
Right.
it is bigger, it is nicer, but it really doesn't do what we had hoped. Maybe like in overall power and capability. Um, I I'm not huge on the Nintendo. Like I just started playing the Super Mario Golf, like when it came out. I've played some other games with the kid and the wife, but I'm not that into the handhelds anymore. So maybe not. Don't take my opinion too serious, but I don't know. I did expect more. I guess from the release and all the murmurings, like keeping a pulse on it, knowing other friends are saying it's kind of underwhelming news. It's not. It wasn't much of a release. I wouldn't. It's not like kicking up feathers or dust for that. So take it
What do
away.
you, what do you think,
I agree
Jason?
with that.
Yeah.
So, um, Nintendo being who they are, um, and the expectations that come with a Nintendo release, I feel like this is, and also coming from, my personal life, at least my past profession being a video engineer. So dealing with resolutions all day, right? The Switch that I currently have right now that I don't use very often is a 1280 by 720 screen. Right, that's the resolution.
Yeah.
This new OLED, which is I think it's 7 inches. Uh, the Switch currently is 6.2 inches diagonal. The Switch Lite is 5.2, I think. Um, every one of those switches, including the new one, is still 1280 by 720. So what? Right? Like literally, so what? I don't need a bit bigger screen and a heavier screen or just a heavier unit. Not by much, but it's still heavier with the same horrible button layout.
Right.
It has the absolute worst D-pad in the history of D-pads. It's like an F-pad. It's so bad, right? Like you cannot play fighting games on that thing at all. I'm a big opponent of fighting games, but fighting games suck on there. Um, Side scrollers, which it's kind of tailor made for, suck on that thing. You're forced to use the analog, which what have they had lawsuit after lawsuit about? Analog drift, right? So
Yeah.
they are, to me, why are you not putting a legitimate D-pad on there? Okay. And why is it that if you want to have a legitimate D-pad on your current Switch and it'll also be on this new one as well, you have to go aftermarket to someone else,
Hmm.
or you can try to mod your Switch.
Yeah.
Like there's so many things about the original release that baffled me. Realistically, the Switch Lite, where the Joy-Cons don't come off, it's the better unit. It's absolutely the better unit to me. So having a bigger unit that still has the same joystick issues, I'm cool on that. I'm cool on that.
That makes
And
a lot of sense.
that's what's so disappointing. And on top of that, we are in a time now where console generation wise, Nintendo has 100% cornered the market on handhelds. And this is what you give us. Like
Literally. Yeah. That's
this
a really
is
good
you
point. I
right?
wasn't really thinking about that necessarily, but it kind of just happened over time and we weren't paying attention. There are no other
What
there's
else is
not
there?
another handed. PlayStation dropped theirs.
Yep.
There was,
It's definitely a missed opportunity for them where they could have made this the Pro with the OLED screen, output at a higher resolution, had the screen at a higher resolution,
Yeah.
and then they could have even done like Jason's saying with the controls, made it sort of an elite like the Xbox has, right? Where the buttons are nicer and interchangeable and
Yeah.
that's what,
higher
Why?
quality.
Like
that's
you
what
have no
everybody says.
competition.
Yeah.
Everyone was asking for it, but
Yeah.
Everyone's
I'm
asking
sure
for
they'll
that.
come out with that in about a year and they'll charge you again.
See, that's the other thing. Like I'm not into like even with the standalone systems,
Yeah.
I'm not into downloadable content to make my system better, right? I'm not getting a pro anything. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to buy this system and that system's going to do what I need it to do.
Yeah.
And if it can't do that, trust me, I'm not going to buy the next console iteration because you're
Right.
showing me, right, that you're basically playing it by ear.
Yeah.
Like that's what you're doing. Like as a technology guy, I understand how fast technology, how fast it evolves. So sure, when the PlayStation 4 came out, could they have already had, an SSD in there? 100%. 100% they could have. Do I know that they didn't do that, so that they could charge you later for the Pro? And yes, right. So I don't play those type of games at all. It's just same thing with VR. I know I'm the VR guy here. Like when the Quest Pro eventually comes out,
Mm-hmm.
it had better be a Pro,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not going to have 19 different headsets in the house,
Yep.
right? And as a collector, I don't even think that'll look cool. I don't
No,
need that in my life, right?
Yeah.
no,
So
It's clutter at that
yeah,
point.
I agree. I,
I'm not feeling it at all. And to be honest, like looking at, just to go back to the Metroid trailer, the first thing that my eyes went to, besides yes, the trailer looks good, the game looks fun, it the game itself graphically doesn't look that good. It's
no.
super jaggy,
Yeah.
right? It's more pixelated than what it needs to be, and a big part of that is you're still running this brand new Metroid that's 18 years in the making on a screen that's like you're really running 720p.
I hope
So
it's
even
not
if
18 years in the making.
that's almost like Anthem, right?
Oh,
Like, oh,
Cyberpunk?
God.
you see whose
Cyberpunk?
face?
Anthem.
You see whose face
Cyberpunk?
just
Oh,
did that?
Cyberpunk. Oh,
Look at the.
I mean, I don't need to get off on that, but I'm just saying, if you've got this, like Nintendo's had a long time to see what the fans wanted. And again, how many lawsuits have they had? Okay. What did you learn from that? You know what the
Nothing.
fans want? They don't want better controls on this thing. They just want a bigger screen. All right, well, what are you going to do with it? It's going to have beautiful black levels. Contrast ratio is going to be up because it's no longer LCD, right? So people are going to want that. True. What about the games? How are they going to look on there? Well, it's still going to
right.
be jaggy,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Because it's still 720. That makes zero sense to me.
Yeah,
Zero sense to me.
unfortunate. Missed the mark. I mean, just overall dropping that.
With the OLED screen switch.
Yeah, I feel
Yeah.
like I don't. Was it even worth an announcement? That should have been like a footnote.
If it had more
Yeah.
options or more upgrades than just the screen, I would have considered selling the one we currently have and upgrading, but
No,
I'm not going to do it just for OLED. So,
no.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's
At
I
the
wonder if
same
it's supply
resolution.
and demand. You know, because
Yeah.
they're hard to find right now. Switches, right?
Right.
So I wonder if they're
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
you guys, how much does it cost to put in the OLED? oh, it's actually a little cheaper to mass produce it and put it in the screen. Oh, and we can charge a little more because it sounds cooler. There you go. And
Yeah.
and now that's going to hit the market and maybe hopefully bring a light down. Maybe I'm going to look for a used light now that Jason said that. It makes a lot
I
of
just
sense.
want to see when these switches start getting burning. That'll be interesting.
Yeah.
I had no little OLED TV that lasted about a year.
Yeah.
So
I was
yeah.
gonna say, like,
Kids leaving it on.
Yeah. I mean, anything, like I was responsible with my TV and it got burned in real quick. So
I was gonna say
be careful on those OLEDs.
It's a great looking screen when it's looking great.
Yep. When it's brand new, best looking screen I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah. And yes, there's things you can do to try to, mitigate that. But
Right. You shouldn't have to do that for a TV.
So,
No, you
Jason, are you against the OLED altogether? You think it should just stay LCD, but just get a better resolution rate?
I just think that at this point, 720, not to video nerd out, but 720 is the equivalent of 1080i. No one is running interlaced video anymore. No one is running 720 video anymore. That's kind of what it is. So it's not that it necessarily needed to be 4K. If it were to be a 4K handheld, that thing would have been, at 7 inches, it would have been $400 to $500, right? So they're smart enough to know they'd be pricing themselves out of reality there. But at the same time, there is no competition in that space.
Yeah.
You are your own competition in that space. They easily could have done larger screen size, running at 1080 at 60 frames. Okay. The trailer that we're talking about right now,
Yeah.
like it wouldn't have looked like, Samus was made of Lego blocks. Like the majority of games that I have, I mean, Mario Kart looks great. It looks great. But I would be remiss in not saying you can see the jaggies. Okay.
Right.
So what, you're just going to blow that up? Right. When you can't really tell when it's a smaller screen.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So now you take that and blow that up to a bigger size. Yeah. I'm
So,
not-
I mean, the
It'll look like
OLED
paint by
screen on the
numbers.
handheld,
right.
the OLED screen on the actual handheld, it's going to look better on the handheld, but you're still outputting to your TV when you have friends over or you want to play it on the screen on the TV, which most of the time my kids want to play it on the TV.
Right.
It's going to look exactly the same.
That's a huge point. That's
all I'm saying.
That was a really big point because the
Yeah.
the light, you dock the light as well, right?
No.
No,
I don't
that
think
one's
you can
just a
dock it.
handheld.
So you can't dock it. So that's where I'm like, kind of like to have a
Yeah.
light, but I like the docking feature. That'd be
I think
nice.
the docking feature is nice, but it really is cool to take your Switch, while you're in bed. You've got like an hour, right? You had a heck of a day at work.
Oh
So
my
it's
God.
nice to
You turned like Irish right there.
Yeah.
This is Black Irish, bro. It's the best I got.
Give
I
him a
cannot
Switch,
do
he
that
turns
accent,
Black
bro.
Irish. Who'd have thought?
Well, it's the games that I'm playing.
Oh.
But if you sit there and you play that, and now granted, I've had a lot of hand injuries, but after like 30 minutes, I'm like, this
You're like this.
horrible. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And the buttons seriously are like, the top of an eraser on a number 2 pencil. It sucks. I don't have giant hands or anything where I need to have, huge buttons. It's not a very comfortable design.
pinkies
like where the
go
triggers are. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
seriously, I'm playing
It's
and I
rough.
I have to do this number. Are you kidding? I don't do that when I like work out, but I'm doing that because I'm playing Mario Kart. It's like, what's going
You got to
on
warm
right
up
now?
to play Switch.
Yeah, I'm doing this number,
Yeah.
push-ups. So I don't know. There's a market for it. There's a market for everything.
Yeah.
I am hoping against hope that PlayStation at this point is like, we're smashing this console war. We've made more money than probably we should have ever, right? We don't even do bio computers anymore, right? We barely do televisions. Let's just go ahead and keep making those PlayStations and making so much money. Hey, you know what'd be nice? Maybe we do another PlayStation handheld.
Handheld.
Like anyone who had the PSP knows that was a great handheld. Now, it did more than maybe they kind of overshot what they needed to. I didn't need to watch movies on it or anything
Mhm.
like that. But the games felt like
Yeah.
an actual
Yeah.
game. You
That
know,
was an E3 drop.
yes, yes, it was.
If we're talking about,
And
that's an E3
yeah, that
drop
was
when
one of
that
the
came
best.
out. Oh yeah.
One of the best. So I just feel like competition is good.
Yeah.
Right? And until there's competition, Nintendo,
And do whatever they want.
3 years from now, they're like, you know what, we're gonna drop another Switch and we're gonna make it 730p, right? Like, I don't want that, right? I mean, there is no 730, but you feel what I'm saying, though, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't need those incremental, like, garbage updates.
Yeah.
I don't need that.
All right, guys. Well, we're out of time. If anyone wants to follow us on Twitter, it's 702gaming on Twitter. You follow me, I'll follow you back. We're out of here.